And welcome back to this lesson. In the previous lesson, we talked about iterables, that is, concepts or context or the part of JavaScript programming language where you can use iterables to access their element. And we mentioned object, array, map, set, and also talked about loop type and how each of them can be used to get values from these concepts or topics in the JavaScript programming language itself. Now, moving away from that, we now want to look at the iterator object itself. Now, like I said, what we looked at was iterables. Now we want to look at the iterator object because those loop type that we saw belongs to a specific iterator object, and that is what gives them the ability to be able to extract values. Remember when we talked about pattern and sequence that an iterable must follow in order to extract values out in whatever context that it is being applied to. I think that was the discussion in the last video. So, all right. Now, in this video, I want us to look at the iterator object and see some things that we need to be aware concerning it. An iterator is an object that provides a standard way to access elements sequentially. So, an iterator is an object. We all know what an object is. That use key value pairs for value. Now, they now says it provides a standard way to access elements sequentially. So, which means that the iterator that we've been using on iterables, objects, arrays, and others is also an object. And that is what makes it to have a standard way to access elements sequentially. And you will notice that when we're talking about iterables, using any of those loop type allows values to be accessed sequentially. You see that when you have, say, a set of A, B, C, A will come before B will come before C, which means that the values are being extracted sequentially from the elements of the object. Now, an iterator must adhere to the iterator protocol. It must have a next method. So, iterator itself, which is one of those loop type that we saw, also has a protocol that they follow. And that protocol is that an iterator must have a next method. And that next method is what gives it the ability to be able to pick a value, then pick the next value, then pick the next value, and so on and so forth. So moving away from that, let's talk about the next method itself. The next method returns an object with two properties. And now, let me just use this as a better illustration so that you get it very clearly. Now, I want to use the for of loop as an example. You notice that whenever we want to implement the for of loop, there's a part that goes with the for, and then there's a part that goes after the of. Now, one usually is always like the initialization, the first part, and the other is on what it is that you want to perform iteration on. So those two parts are what is a perfect example of a next method. So it returns an object with two properties. The value property holds the next value in the iteration sequence. So when it's initialized, it holds a value. After getting that value, then it will add that value and move to the next one. It will hold the value and move to the next one until it gets to the end of the elements in your or your sequence. So that is how it will continue to hold values in iteration until it gets to the end of the sequence. Now, the part 2 is the done property return false if there are no more elements to iterate over. So which means that otherwise it is done so, which means that as long as there are more elements to iterate over, the done property will always return true. And as long as it's true, values will always be gotten out from that sequence. So that is the next method. Now, iterators provide a control way to work with data sequences, enabling custom iteration logic for various data structure. So why iterators? What is their use? What are they useful for? They provide a control way to work with data sequences, enabling custom iteration logic for various data structures. Now, they are also particularly useful for handling streams of data, lazy computation of values, and building custom data structure with defined iteration behavior. So these two are the usefulness and the benefit of iterators themselves. Now, and so moving away from what we have right here on the screen in 2025, now ECMAScript officially approved a set of new iterator EPA methods, and we are going to be looking at those EPA methods one after the other in the following lessons. And those EPA methods significantly enhance the functionalities of iterators in JavaScript. Now, the method provides a more functional and efficient way to work with iterable objects, including generators, by allowing direct manipulation and transformation without first converting them to arrays. So, before the introduction of the EPA method, when you want to iterate over an iterable object, now, there was no direct manipulation and transformation without first converting that object into arrays. But with the EPA method, this provides a functional and efficient way to work with iterable objects by allowing direct manipulation and transformation of objects without first converting them to array. And we have a series of them, as we are going to be looking at them one after the other. We have the drop method, every method, filter method, find method, flat map method, for each method, from method, map method, reduce method, sum method, take method, and so couple of others like that. So in the next lesson, we begin to examine each of these EPA methods one after the other to see how they provide a more functional and efficient way to work with iterable objects, including generators, and how they allow direct manipulation and transformation without first converting whatever you are working on into an array. Till then, I'll see you. Thank you.